Welcome back to another episode of Moving Offline. Today we have Will from DumbWireless. He is the founder and creator of this page and service that gets you the best dumb phones in the world at a great price and also delivered with a great personality and just an idea of supporting the community. Will is going to talk to us about his experiences and everything in between. So make sure to listen for tips and tricks and what it has been to run DumbWireless as a company. Will, thank you for joining us. And please introduce yourself and let us know a little bit more about yourself. And how do you find DumbWireless?
Thank you, Jose, for building up the dumb phone community and getting people off addictive technology, first of all. But we created DumbWireless, one, because it didn't exist. And when thinking about getting off a smartphone after being dependent on it for so many years is really confusing for people. And as you know, Jose, because you review them all, there's an inundating amount of options. And a lot of them are not good options based off carrier compatibility and other factors. So we had this idea to just create this one-stop shop for the best non-smartphones that could actually work for people, and then customer service so people could ask questions on what this experience will be like, whether it's carrier compatibility, what features it has and doesn't have, and to just get feedback on it. And we've really, really enjoyed doing it. And it feels great that we're able to get some more people off of smartphones. And that's really the reason why we do this.
How do you decide to, hey, I'm interested in dumb phones, I'm interested in doing some of these things, to, hey, I'm going to start a company about it? And what has been your journey with that? And also what is your preferred device?
So I think the need is just that there was nobody doing this, and it felt very necessary because I think people would have the idea and really romanticize the idea of not wasting their life on their smartphone, especially when people were spending way too much time and during the COVID days. Just it was so confusing for them to figure that out that I think they shelved the idea of ever getting off their smartphone. And we wanted to create this one-stop shop that could really entice people to try making the switch at least. And that's how the business was born, is that nobody else was doing this. And it felt like a very big necessity. And on top of that, we do in-person events. So I've gone all around the state of California, and we got to do a bunch of events in 2023 and hopefully many more this year, where we get to put the light phone in people's hands and see their face kind of light up. And they're always like, wow, I need this. I'm spending way too much time on their phone. And it seems we all have this very similar view, that it's not an uncommon take that we're wasting our lives on smartphones. And it is worthy of the discussion, whether people are not wanting to have the discussion right now. It's worth having. And we see a lot of people's faces light up when they get to try the phones out and understand what we do in person. So the in-person value has been huge, and we hope to do that way more, as well as keeping the online store up and running. I hope that answers your question on why we started the store. And then the second part, could you repeat that?
Yeah, my second part was essentially, what is your personal device or personal device journey? What are the devices that you have been using and finding that are the best, since you're curating some of these for your website, but also what is your personal kind of like experience with digital dependency and iPhones and, all that good stuff?
Well, yeah, that was another reason, and thank you for bringing that up. It's that I was not immune to the smartphone. I was not one of those people that could just not be bothered by it and go about my day. I got entranced in it and spent way too much time on my phone. So this came from a self-reckoning that I'm not above the smartphone. I am highly susceptible. My personal vice was Twitter. I know maybe you had yours. Mine was Twitter. I don't know why, but I'm a kind of a news junkie, and I love to always be informed about whatever's going on. And, then it gives you this idea that you're going to get your opinion out in the world. And I found the conversations on Twitter were not really productive, and it wasn't a good use of my time. And I was just using it as an escape from being present, which is something we all, almost all of us, do with smartphones. So another reason we started this business was out of my own addiction to my smartphone. I held out until 2017. I had a flip phone, and my boss at the time said, William, get a smartphone tomorrow or bring your stuff in, meaning I was fired and I got the smartphone. And it didn't change me for the first like 6 months. But then I realized a year in, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm a very different person with this device than I was when I had the flip phone. I go home and I sit and I dive into the device instead of what I used to do. And I found myself way less productive. And when I heard about the light phone, I wanted to get back to that as quick as I could. And so, thankfully companies like the light phone and some other competitors exist. And we were able to start this store to help more people get offline.
Something that you mentioned there is the work aspect. And a lot of people have this kind of dependency towards the economy, right? Like, if you want to have a job, if you want to do some things in the world, you have to have certain apps. Talk to me about what you do now outside of your dumb wireless time, and how have you managed hey, I need a smartphone for these things, or and the hey, I want to reclaim my time and move offline the most I can, but I have to interact with this economy. I imagine with Instagram and ads and Google and all of that, like, not only running a business, but you also have a job. So how do you interact? How do you make that, fine line in between? And what tips do you have for people?
That's a really good point. There's still a lot of friction with going to a non-smartphone, and unfortunately, not everybody is going to have the privilege of switching to one right now. Whether you need navigation or a camera for your work, it's not going to work. So we try and be very clear about that with people. That unfortunately, right now, the perfect smartphone doesn't exist, and I don't think the perfect smartphone for everybody will exist, because smartphones give you everything. And the point of a dumb phone or non-smartphone is that it does not give you everything, and it's going to limit your usage of it by doing so. But there's other avenues. Like we've had great success, like for example with Unplug. Since we found the Unplug tag, we're like, okay, this is a great solution for people that so desperately want to try life with a non-smartphone but can't make that jump. They can get the Unplug tag and they can start locking down their smartphone. And the data on Unplug is very sound, that it is effective for reducing people's screen time to have that physical barrier with your smartphone. So you can keep all your functionality there, but limit your distractions. And you're making a conscious effort to do so. And it also is a good parental tool as well for that reason. But as far as, the accessibility of getting a non-smartphone, other than buying products, I guess one other way I've thought of is just maybe don't give yourself an unlimited data plan. That, I think that can be an effective thing too. One, you're going to save some money. You could get an MVNO like Mint or whoever you want. Get the lowest data or the mid-tier data plan, because even the mid-tier data plan, let's say 10 gigabytes, is way more data than anybody would have imagined using their phone for 10 years ago. It would have been a ridiculous amount of time to spend on your phone at 10 gigabytes a month. So instead of getting an unlimited data plan, save some money, try 10 gigabytes, and then you're going to consciously have to make that effort to not be wasting your time, because you don't want to run out of data when you actually need it, let's say for navigation purposes or an essential task. So I think there are a lot of methods people can take other than getting a non-smartphone. And we want to encourage those as well.
Yeah, you bring a very good point that you may not be able to find the perfect smartphone for yourself, but something with a low data plan, right? It will make it harder, more friction, and make you think twice whether you actually need to use this function right now or not. And I think that's extremely helpful. I know, you mentioned Mint, and I know you guys sell also data plans, and, through a partnership with gigs and all of that good stuff. But it's kind of interesting. Like, a low data plan can still work wonders even with the smartphone, because, once you don't have any more data, then you cut all of those smart functions. And that's definitely helpful. Talk to me about like the events and the stuff that you have been doing to raise awareness, right? You started this business and you've done a lot of events and a lot of things. What is this thing that you're noticing the most, and how are you helping people, parents, and everybody in between?
Well, we've just been in business over a year now, and we've done some grassroots stuff. We've done, like, guerrilla marketing, is I guess is the term, where you just, put up posters. It's very big in Los Angeles, so we've been able to do that and just kind of have a small presence in the city amongst other advertisements, and hopefully the name intrigues people to figure out what it is. We have the website, of course, where we advertise online. I know it's antithetical to what we do, but we do use social media to try and target people because they're on there, and a lot of people are on there and feeling like, wow, I waste so much of my life on here, but I just can't stop. So I feel it's important to try and advertise on those platforms as long as we can, but also the in-person events. Just people see the name, they get confused, they think we're maybe like I'm an employee of some big MVNO network, or I don't know, and but then they see the phones and they're really intrigued, and it opens up some great conversations. But other than in-person events and promoting the wireless plan, that's kind of all the avenues we've taken to grow the business and get the word out about switching to a non-smartphone.
What's your favorite devices? I mean, you've been doing this for a little over a year now, and you've been like, working with different people and getting a kickstart, but there's a lot of devices out there. You mentioned it in the beginning. What's your favorite ones that you have tested, that you have tried, and how do you go about choosing like, hey, I'm going to carry this or I'm not?
So we want to carry options that we actually believe are good options, people in the market will want. But I know I'm also biased when I say this, and I think it's just like you. My favorite for me personally has been the iPhone 2. It's just I think they've really proven it and updated the OS and been the company that we kind of needed to really invest in a good usable non-smartphone. And it's also just like a beautiful design that gets that initial entry going to people to where it's a desirable product. Other than that, I think there's some that are worth staying away from. Obviously, as you know, due to carrier compatibility, whatever it might be, using IMEIs from overseas, or they're not really set up for US compatibility. But I'm in thanks to your channel, I get to see so many cool devices that I just wouldn't get to see. And I'm also really interested, like right now, how you've been demoing out the Hisense A9. That was something that I like immediately kind of fell for when I saw. But then I found the limitations with US bands. But I was like, oh my gosh, an e-ink smartphone. That would totally stop like the YouTube and endless scrolling people do on apps with the e-ink screen, but it would have, like really good mapping and things. But unfortunately, then you hit the carrying compatibility issues. So I'm interested in how you've liked the Hisense A9, and I'm always trying to see what else is out there. But in terms of just like favorite device, I think the iPhone 2 has proven to be that for us because it genuinely puts up that brick wall for people to not waste time. Whereas I think people want to look for a dumbed down smartphone all the time that'll have this app and this app, but it doesn't end up working for them because they'll always find a way back in if they're truly addicted to it. And I think the iPhone really puts up the necessary measures to move you offline, which is the intended purpose. But I'm excited to see what else comes in the future, and we have high hopes that down the line more options will be available.
Talk to me about let's shift the conversation from like the market and what you have done with your business to quality of life and things that have changed in your personal life with switching to a dumb phone or embracing a little bit more of like downtime or swapping SIM cards. Like, I mean, you probably tested so many different things, but what are the personal benefits that you have seen in your family with your, with your business, with everything? But what are those personal things that you say, hey, the dumb life, quote unquote, has given me X, Y, and Z? Go ahead.
Yeah, I think it just everybody has their own take on this, which is great to hear. I'll try not to be too long winded with mine, but it does make me more present. I find I actually can use my phone for the intended purposes way more, even with the smartphone. Even though I had such ease of use and capability, I actually wouldn't use it to talk to my parents because I was so inundated with distractions. It weirdly felt like a chore to communicate with the most important people in my life, which is really messed up, and I don't like to own that, but that was true for me in the time of like my height of my own smartphone addiction. And when you have let's go back to the iPhone 2, you don't have anything to do on it. In that boredom, you might use your boredom to talk to the people you love and care about. And I think that's one of the most beautiful things that I've seen with switching. It's just making me want to be more present with people in front of me, and stay in touch with people that are truly important to me, because we live in this world where we're kind of sold. I think we're sold a lie that we're staying in touch because we're viewing each other's photos of our lives, but we're not talking to each other. We sat together in math class, 9 years ago or 12 years ago in high school, whenever that was for you, and now we're not in touch. But I see your life, and we have so much less actual communication interaction than we ever have. But we're sold this false idea that we're living in community and interaction because of social media. But the biggest change for me I've noticed is just wanting to have conversations more and be more present. And it doesn't come without a challenge. I certainly, like, my brain wants to fight it, and I wish there was a distraction there, because I've used them for so long now that I miss the distractions. But that's the point, is that you have to go through that chapter and deny yourself, kind of what you're in a way addicted to with switching. So yeah, I'd say that's the biggest perk for me personally.
Sounds good. And I mean, I can resonate with that. You get more time to find other activities, and sometimes it may be difficult. Do you have a story or something that, as we start closing, something that you can kind of relate and tell us, like, hey, this is a story that I remember in the past. I used to do this. Now that I have switched to, more simple device, my life has changed in this way. Or maybe a story that you have heard from all of the encounters that you have had with people on the streets, or like that people tell you. I'm always interested to hear the different experiences that people have when they're moving offline and how it has affected their experience.
I mean, there's so many ways you can find that it makes a difference. From like, one I would say is in shopping habits. When you're not inundated with algorithmically fed advertisements that know exactly what you might be interested in, you slow down the like kind of your endless need of consumerism. So one fair argument people make about getting a dumb phone is that you're just adding another device, or you're buying a product as a band-aid maybe. But when you're not inundated with these advertisements that, are the reason all these apps are collecting your data, I think it will make up for it over time for most people by not just shopping so much on the phone and being inundated with advertisement. That's one way I think you get part of your money and your life back from the smartphone. But really, just go back to being present, to not needing to be entertained at all times. Again, you can still struggle with it. It's not a thing that just makes you happy all the time because you bought a dumb phone. It doesn't patch everything up, obviously. It just, I think, slowly can rewire your brain to slowing down and being present with the people around you, which really will, I believe, make you more happy than YouTube entertainment or things like that. I think when you get the world at your fingertips, it loses its charm very quickly. One analogy I would use, like, I kind of used to be a car person. Like, I loved the idea of electrification of vehicles, and I got really into it. And even though it was always like out of my budget, I always dreamed of like what was the electric car I was going to get one day. And I think what a lot of people realize, or just testimonials I've heard, people maybe that got really financially successful in life and splurged on that luxury car, is it has an initial effect. And then all of a sudden, 2 months later, you're at a red light, at the same red light you were at before, and it's just your car now. The novelty is worn off at that point. So I think, yeah, getting offline and valuing people and interactions with people, it'll make you so much more happy, yeah, than chasing constant entertainment or products to fill whatever hole you have at the moment. Um,
Do you have a story from customer or somebody that you know personally in your area that switched and has made like a big impact in their life to regain some of the offline presence? Maybe stories that you have heard that could be helpful, I think, to, for those listening, is like, hey, this can make a difference in your life as well.
yeah, there are some, and not to be too explicit on the channel, or if I don't know if this is weird for people to hear, but It's a real thing, and part of the reason we started the store was to have an active phone number where one of us will answer, and it's a real person. We don't have any robot that will talk to you and get back to you later. It's we'll talk to you on our personal phones. We have had people call and say, I have like a chronic addiction to adult content, which is very real, especially with the smartphone, because it gives them access to it in their pocket at all times. And it can become, from what we've read, it can become very severe in terms of technology addictions. It's one of the most severe forms it takes, I think. And one of the best testimonials we've ever got was from someone that tried 2 different devices and found the device that actually got them off of that. And they've said it's made not only them more happy, but their partner more happy, because obviously that can't be healthy in a partnership. And it's amazing that, finding a device that works for you, or just a method, even if it's not a device that works for you, to break a extremely chronic and damaging addiction, that feels really good. And it's nice to know that we don't care. People can call and tell us that. We're not here to pass judgment. I was a 6-hour-a-day screen time person myself on my iPhone. I'm not here to pass any judgment or say like, oh, I'm above that whole being plugged into the algorithm thing. I've been there, and I'd like to help other people break free from that, or make the switch to at least trying to contain it a little bit, or the best they can. So yeah, to get a customer though from your site that says you help them with something big, that means the world, and it encourages us to keep going, even if, like I've said, this has not been a huge revenue thing for us, or profit driven thing for us. Still have our day jobs even, and it's definitely not for the money, but we do this because we love it, and I believe it serves a purpose. And when we didn't start this, it didn't exist, and now I feel like we have at least one more avenue for people to find a method of moving offline.
That's awesome. It's good to hear that there are people out there who are calling and getting, to talk to you guys and understand like, hey, try this out, or try this other device, and maybe they'll find something that's for them. Thanks a lot for coming in and for letting us know about DumbWireless and about everything that you have done. As always, I like to leave the final word with the guest. So anything you want to say, how people can find you, all those good things, make sure to let us know now.
We're at dumbwireless.com if you want to find us. Hopefully we could see you in person at a show sometime if you follow us. And yeah, we wish you all the best if you are intending to move offline, or limit your screen time. And we thank you, Jose, for creating the channel that has been the number one resource for people online to figure that out. And I look forward to reading the book and seeing where this goes in 2024 and beyond. Thank you for having me on.
That was Will from DumbWireless. Thank you for listening to Moving Offline. We're hoping to get more interviews coming in the new year. So if you or someone may want to come and share their experience, make sure to let them know, to reply to all the socials or different areas. You can find my email or reply to the Substack, and I will get a hold of them and get the interview process started. Thank you for listening and for supporting Moving Offline. We'll see you in the next podcast.